The Police Welfare Association to launch a campaign to get suspended officers back on active duty. NEMO continues to shift its focus away from meteorological to geological hazards. An opposition senator speaks out on last weekend's car crash that claimed 2 teenage lives. And a St. Lucia-based business makes an historic first shipment to Cuba. DBS's Sheffield Gillard begins our news coverage.
Approximately 10 police officers are currently on suspension, some for as long as 8 years. Today, the PWA convened a meeting with fellow officers with matters before the criminal courts. President of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, says the current situation is unacceptable and he is calling on the relevant authorities to address the situation.
It is not a nice feeling. You could hear it on the tone of their voices. You could literally, if you listen properly and you take your time and you probably understand after they've given you the full story. My brother, I could tell you that it's a very difficult time for them. Some of them have been on suspension for 8 years. And some of them matters have gone for 40 adjournments. So we're saying that at some point after we've had these meetings, we would want to speak with the necessary authorities. We would want to have meetings with our Commissioner of Police to probably look at how it's best that we could deal with suspension.
The PWA will be meeting with its general membership on Friday to discuss the way forward. Chico says there are conditions under which officers can be reinstated.
Any member who's gone through suspension, even when they come back in the organization, we must have set procedures for them in terms of getting them ready to come back onto the job. And I think it's not a situation that when you just come off suspension that you just go into the job. I think that we need to ready their minds and ready their bodies and even how they themselves feel as to how they are going to be welcome into the organization.
Police officers on suspension receive half regular pay pending the outcome of the cases. For the DBS News World, I am Sheffield Gillard.
Local media practitioners joined international counterparts today in observing World Press Freedom Day. It is a day to celebrate the fundamental principles of press freedom, to evaluate press freedom around the world, to defend the media from attacks on their independence, and to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the exercise of their profession. The theme for this year is Critical Minds for Critical Times, Media's Role in Advancing Peaceful, Just, and Inclusive Societies. Don Nicholas has more.
World Press Freedom Day serves to emphasize the vital role that the media play in the dissemination of information to the general public. This year, the observance is being held under the theme Critical Minds for Critical Times, Media's Role in Peaceful, Just, and Inclusive Societies.
Too many people immediately conflate critical with criticism, forgetting that criticism can oftentimes be constructive. Without effective critical analysis, activities and organizations become unfocused, ineffective, and banal. The press serves as an unforgiving mirror, truthfully reflecting the essence of whatever comes before it. We need the press so that we can clearly see ourselves. Freedom of the press is now more important than ever. The critical time mentioned in this year's theme is now.
At a time when the social media is inundated with fake news and polarized opinions seem to be the order of the day, the president deems it imperative that journalists get it right.
A free press stands ready to defend society from this menace by ferreting out shining strands of truth from the murky depths, piecing together half-truths from politicians and spin doctors, both paid and unpaid. A free press scrutinizes those in power and contrasts rhetoric with actions, throwing empty promises into stark relief. A free press pulls back the curtains and spills sunlight into corporate boardrooms, making businesses accountable to the consumers who are the source of their profits.
Mr. Favre says it is important that the press continue to serve as a watchdog, sounding the alarm when things are not right. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
An opposition senator and family friend of the 2 young women whose lives were cut short in last weekend's car crash on the Shock Highway has been speaking about the incident. Senator Joachim Henry says it is important for the affected families and friends to find effective ways to learn to cope with the loss. The senator, whose daughter was close friends with the 2 young women, says each experience of grief is unique, complex, and personal.
It was a sad weekend for many, especially those who knew the victims of last weekend's tragic crash. Opposition Senator Joachim Henry is no exception. Henry, whose daughter was close friends with Zane Williams and Zina Anthony, says the friendship shared by the trio brought the families together. Henry is, however, concerned about the impact of the tragedy on his daughter, who is still trying to come to terms with what transpired. He says she was the one who gave him the bad news.
There's very little we can do sometimes in life when it comes for these things that happens to us in terms of accidents. We plan our best, we speak to our children, we as a government try to put in and make our roads as safe as possible as we can, but accidents do happen. And what we do in a time like this, knowing that other families have gone through these things in the past and they have had to move on, is for us to take to hold on to the beauty there is in life, the beauty that they have shared with us during the times, and that's what I try to remind myself about.
Henry recalled precious moments shared with the teenagers, whom he describes as the hope for the future.
Last year we were in New York playing football. Zani was there and took photos and we laughed. When I drive to South Louis to drop off my daughter, and they have the jokes about me, politics otherwise, and they would say things and I would laugh, but these children were so wonderful.
Zane Williams and Zina Anthony's lives were cut short by a tragic accident on Saturday along the Shock Highway near Salmons Park.
I've asked myself, what do we do? And it reminds us that the moment we have, we should cherish it with our children. I've had to reflect. You just cannot replace these wonderful children. You cannot replace them.
A post-mortem examination of the bodies were completed earlier this week. The South Louis Community College has organized grief counseling for fellow students and friends of the two young women. For the DBS News World, I am Sheffield Gillard.
Still in the first segment of the broadcast, the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, engaged the director of the Trinidad-based Seismic Research Center, Dr. Richard Robertson, to deliver a lecture on earthquake and tsunami preparedness. The lecture is timely, as regional experts have repeatedly warned that the Caribbean is overdue for a major earthquake. They are also concerned that all of the known causes of tsunamis are present in the Caribbean. Don Nicholas has more.
Dr. Robertson was here on another mission, but NEMO officials decided to profit the opportunity to tap into his knowledge about volcanoes, tsunamis, and earthquakes. NEMO has made a conscious effort to place greater emphasis not just on the meteorological disasters like hurricanes, but also on other hazards that St. Lucia is prone to.
We subscribe to the view of comprehensive disaster management, which means that we are to consider all hazards. We are to look at all the phases of the disaster management cycle, so not just response, but that we look at the before activities, the preparedness and the mitigation, and that we are to ensure that we do so with all peoples or all sectors. So national level, community level, school age population, the entire public. So we really wanted to have a forum, an information sharing forum.
NEMO highlighted the importance of simulation exercises, saying that they must be conducted on a regular basis in order to ensure a heightened level of preparedness.
And that is why we want to provide information consistently, have a sustained public education campaign, so that it will almost become second knowledge, that you act immediately, you respond accordingly immediately based on what is happening, that you don't have to think too hard about what am I supposed to do. The more you rehearse things, it becomes a part of you. So we're hoping that we do those exercises a lot more often.
The lecture was delivered at NEMO's office. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
In entertainment news, the age-old axiom, if it isn't broken, don't fix it, was tossed out the window as the St. Lucia Tourist Board and the St. Lucia Events Company Limited announced further changes to the decades-old St. Lucia Jazz Festival. Alex Busquet has more.
The average price tag to stage the two-week festival was over $14 million. The primary return was an influx of tourists into the island during the period.
What jazz has done, it has created a bottleneck in terms of the arrival situation. You can't get rental cars, you can't get rooms. All of that is good, but also What we're trying to do here now is to lengthen that span so that we can lengthen the summer period. So after the Jazz Festival will finish, we go right into what is called a lean arrival period for a lot of the small hotel sector. And with these events, it gives us a chance now to continue to produce events that I believe are more relevant to our own culture.
Building on St. Lucia's outstanding artistic talent and rich cultural heritage, the St. Lucia Events Company's lineup includes the Roots and Soul Festival in June. St. Lucia Carnival is set to receive a substantial injection to raise the standard of the festival while improving St. Lucia's appeal as an ideal place to play mass. The Food and Rum Festival returns to the calendar between August 24th to 27th, with the first ever Country and Blues Festival slated for September. The Events Company has also taken over the execution of this year's Creole Heritage Month activities with an Arts and Heritage Festival.
We are now looking to see how best we can move away from promoting our island as just a tropical island that sells jazz. We can't exhaust in excess of a third of our marketing budget on a festival within 1 week. It doesn't make sense. And so this is an effort to say that St. Lucia is more than jazz, it's more than a tropical island.
Over the past 2 decades, St. Lucia Jazz, dubbed Nothing Sweeter Than That, has blossomed into one of the region's premier music festivals and a staple for both tourist and local businesses alike. Speculation is rife as to whether the newly coined formula of multiple lean festivals will realize the same gains as the Mammoth May Festival.
Like everything new, you will get criticisms, but you have to believe in your vision and you have to continue doing what you believe is right for the development of the country. I think that the two positions are largely speculative now. Time will tell which side of the debate will win and who's on the right side of the debate.
Soleil, the St. Lucia Summer of Festivals, will open with St. Lucia Jazz on May 12th. It will be a celebration of traditional, contemporary and Caribbean jazz and will feature renowned vocalist Rachelle Farrell, Malaika Torien from Guadeloupe, and legendary saxophonist Kenny Garrett, and culminating with a special Mother's Day concert on Sunday, May 14th, with headliner Vanessa Williams. For the DBS News World, I am Alex Bousquet.
We continue the broadcast with Street Vibes. Once again, here is Alex Bousquet.
Hi, I'm Alex Bousquet and you're watching Street Vibes. Today the people speak to an open mic.
What I'm very concerned about is that International Labour Day passed so smoothly in St. Lucia, not a really visible celebration. Only one union I knew that did something and not really any significant. The other thing that shocked me during the budget debate, few people were listening to it. I pass around, I go on the minibus and check around. People wasn't paying attention to it. So it's very important that people pay attention to what's happening in the parliament so they can be aware of what's taking place rather than go about just talking. So these are some of the 2 points I really think that I think St. Lucia should really pay attention to. May Day, which I said that people wasn't paying much attention to it, or the union didn't, and then the budget.
Yeah, my problem is I want to say something about the incident that happened over the weekend. But it seems to me they're only talking about the 2 girls that died in the accident. But what about the two little babies that died that get burned in the house? Nobody talking about the babies. Huh? Everybody talking about one set of people, but they forget about another set. I have a problem with that.
I think people should be more concerned about the health and the family than to be concerned about people's business. Because if you study right now in St. Lucia, we have a lot of sick people, and people do intend to acknowledge that, but they tend to study a lot of things that don't make no sense, politics, all kind of rubbish, when they're supposed to be studying their health, and the family and the children. That's what I have to say.
I want the opposition and St. Lucian to give my Prime Minister a chance. He don't have 5 years in power yet. Give him a chance, please, St. Lucians. Let's see what he's doing for the country. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brusky.
We've just been watching Street Vibes with me, Alex Buske, down here at the Aquarius Crossing, the intersection of Coral and St. Louis Streets.
Thank you so much for staying with us. The National Workers Union, NWU, met with shop stewards of the water and sewage company WASCO earlier today. The meeting aimed to come up with solutions to persistent issues at the water company that have caused workers to take protest action in the past. Don Nicholas explains.
With new WASCO management appointed, the National Workers Union, NWU, decided to nip potential problems in the bud by convening a meeting with WASCO shop stewards on Wednesday afternoon. From what the union has indicated, the general consensus appears to be that the workers would prefer one bargaining agent representing them.
WASCO employees are now of the opinion that one trade union should represent all WASCO employees. There are two bargaining units, and that is their view, that is their opinion, that is a popular decision on the ground. So we have to be in a position to galvanize that request or galvanize that feeling in such a way at the end of the day we can achieve that kind of wish. So this is the kind of direction that we want to move into, and hopefully we would prepare ourselves to meet management shortly.
Overtime seems to be one of the most troubling issues. The union is trying to minimize overtime work.
We want to look at the whole question of how we manage the overtime situation. For some time now, the company has been lamenting the fact that they want to bring that under a certain level of control. We have to review our own position, whether we are overburdened with work during the 8 to 4 period. And if that is the case, then we have to look at a schedule that would make it easier for everybody to perform and do as much as they could between 8 and 4.
The shop stewards gathered at the NWU's office for the meeting. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
St. Lucia has designated the month of May as Vaccination Month. The observance builds on the annual observance of Vaccination Week in the Americas. It is an annual public health campaign by the member states of the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, to promote equity and access to immunization. Miguel Morissette has more.
St. Lucia joins the rest of the region in celebrating Vaccination Week under the theme, Get Vaccinated to Celebrate a Healthy Tomorrow. The aim is to raise awareness of vaccination as an integral part of healthy living, reduce morbidity and mortality, and disease prevention. Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Sharon Belma George, spoke of the impacts of vaccination.
When we look at the cost of getting one of those infectious diseases, the cost on the family, the cost on the healthcare system in terms of illnesses, in terms of admissions to hospitals, we have been able to reduce the impact of many diseases, both here in St. Lucia and in the region. Diseases such as measles, such as mumps, such as rubella, tetanus, pertussis, diphtheria, polio, and hepatitis B as well. In terms of our measles, mumps, and rubella survey of 2015, we were able to note certain gaps in certain regions where persons chose not to immunize their child. And if you noted, we saw increases in pertussis over the last few years, and those were only in persons who chose not to vaccinate their children. So we have been reaping the benefits of vaccination within the community. So we urge persons to continue protecting themselves, continue protecting their families and communities by adhering to the recommended vaccination protocol by the Ministry of Health.
Meanwhile, Immunization Manager Julieta Cassius encourages the public to participate in two major activities which will commence this week.
We have two grand activities which are fun walks, which will take place in the Castries City Circuit and the Vieux-Fort Town. So this Friday, May 5th, starting at 10 a.m. from the Ministry of Health building in front of the Sir Stanislaus James building, we will commence a fun walk. And like I indicated, it's going to be through the Castries City Circuit, where we'll be celebrating. We'll have our sound system, we'll be chanting our vaccination slogans. We will be going all pro-vaccination, and we encourage the public, persons who are within the Castro City area, to come in and celebrate with us. We want to continue to promote our vaccination. Our similar activity will be in the Bruford town, and likewise, it starts at 10 o'clock as well, and it will be held on Thursday, the 11th of May. And we are inviting again members of the public in the south. If you are in town in that day, or if you did not decide to be in town, this is the time for you to be in town and to help celebrate our vaccination achievements. The Ministry of Health personnel will be there. We have the schools will be participating. So we invite you, members of the public, to come in large numbers and to help celebrate our vaccination achievements and to help celebrate a healthy country.
In addition, the immunization manager also noted that free vaccination is available throughout the wellness centers across the island, and individuals should take advantage of such opportunities. Reporting from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I am Miguel Morissette.
In some business news, St. Lucia-based manufacturing company Baron Foods Limited has finally achieved its goal of exporting its world-class products to Cuba. The first shipment of condiments left St. Lucia yesterday for the Spanish-speaking nation.
Between Caribbean export.
Baron Foods CEO Ronald Ramjatan observed that Cuba is a new and emerging market with over 12 million inhabitants sharing a similar culture and food preference with the rest of the Caribbean.
What transpired yesterday was an effort, what I would personally call resiliency. That mission started over 10 years ago, visiting Cuba, looking at Cuba, participating at FIHAV, which is their biggest exhibition yearly, and trying to build bonds between Baron Foods and the Cuban government and their purchasing companies.
Mr. Ramjatan noted that Baron Foods has been attempting to penetrate the Cuban market for the past 10 years. Over the past 2 years, the company has been constantly attending the various trade shows, knocking on the doors of buyers, seeking partnerships between TIPA and other organizations in order to make the shipment possible.
So after several years of going to Cuba, working with a company what we call TRD, which is one of the chief food buyers in the Cuban market, it translated into an export, the first order to go, which is going out today. That order reflects over $60,000 US. And once that order reaches Cuba and the consumers try it out, we are anticipating an overall over 20 containers per year.
The government of St. Lucia has welcomed such an initiative.
We saw Baron Foods shipping their first container to Cuba, which is a significant feat for us in St. Lucia because it's the first time that a country in the Caribbean has shipped a food item to Cuba. It was a very long and arduous lucious for the management of Baron Foods, but they have finally broken that barrier, and I think it's just the beginning of other St. Lucian companies getting into that space.
Mr. Felix is encouraging other local enterprises to follow suit and to tap into the Spanish-speaking market. For the DBS News World, I am Sheffield Gillard.
And now this. The Quantum Gardens at Masque Ansteret will be the venue for the first ever West Coast Jazz Festival on May 7th, 2017. The event is one of the many activities making up the Soleil Summer Jazz Festival. Alex Busquet reports.
The Quantum Gardens is a new location proposed to host the West Coast Jazz Festival, and organizers are considering making it a permanent venue.
A lot of persons may not know where that is, but when you're driving down from Castries, it's on your right-hand side after you leave the Roseau Highway, just after the restaurant overlooking the Roseau Bay. If you're coming down from Ancillary, it's after Masque Ridge. So you can say it's between Otago and the Roseau Valley. So you should have no problems getting there because we will be having a billboard right next to the venue.
The event was the idea of the minister responsible for tourism, who is also the Canaries Ancillary MP.
He decided to incorporate this into ancillary because we've realized that aside from the fish festivities taking place on a Friday, the place is quite devoid of activity. So this will allow the showcasing of talents from persons within the area and within St. Lucia by extension. It gives a chance for persons to come out on Sunday with their families, their children, to have a wonderful time, experience the local cuisine, listen to the music, and also because of the venue, you're able to view the sunset, the luscious greenery all around.
CEO of the event company of St. Lucia, Thomas Leos, says the company is elated to present a venue which has never been used before for an event of that nature, one he has high expectations of.
The expectation is that as the solar calendar moves on in 2017 and also in the years to come, we'll have other communities coming forward, not only on the West Coast but on the East Coast as well, because we've traditionally had a lot of jazz events in the South with Balambush and Laboe Promotions. Well, no need to say what's happening in the North, that's where the focus is. But we'd like other communities to come forward. Canaries should not be left out. Mikud, we're looking forward to seeing something next year. Soufriere has been with the festival in previous years and we expect that they will come on board with other events. But having said that, I'd like to applaud the West Coast Jazz Committee for putting the best foot forward as far as this event is concerned. We are very happy to endorse it and provide all the support that they require to ensure that not only they put on a fantastic event, but that patrons can come out on Sunday and have a blast. Like Patrice said, it's very affordable, 20 EC for quality entertainment from reputed musicians. So look forward to having a wonderful time.
The show starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday, May 7th, 2017, and patrons coming from the north will be shuttled from the Total Construction Hardware site to the Quintum Gardens. Patrons from the south will be shuttled from the village of Anse-le-Ray. For the DBS News World, I am Alex Bousquet.
Time now for Core Values with Hannah Jang.
Miku Community Festival took place from April 21st through 23rd as part of the wider National Arts Festival, which is organized by the Cultural Development Foundation each year. The event encourages the training of artisans and nurturing of creative talent in local communities. Artists in Miku were informed about the festival and embraced it as an opportunity to showcase their work.
It was a team effort. Persons who knew creative people in the community would contact them and inform them about the festival. We would share it on social media to other people, ask them if they know anybody who is creative, whether it is drawing, painting, crafts, as long as it's visual arts. We would ask them if they know anybody, can we have their contact, and we contact them and ask the people if they can come in and show their work. It's an opportunity to show St. Lucia what we from Miku have to offer to our island.
The art club at Miku Primary School was featured in one of the exhibits at the festival. The students' work incorporated recyclable objects such as plastic bottles and paper rolls, demonstrating both environmental consciousness and the fact that art can be created from inexpensive, everyday materials. Peace Corps volunteer Devin Howard, who leads the art club with her counterparts at the school, shared about her experience collaborating with community members to prepare for the arts festival.
It allowed me the opportunity to integrate more into my community, to get to know some community members who I may not have known. I've seen a few in pass and say hello, but I got to know them a little bit better working with them during the planning and execution of this festival.
Other community artists spoke about how art is a source of self-empowerment, a way in which people can take initiative for their own livelihoods.
As a Mikudian, I would like my colleagues, my friends, my neighbors, everyone to observe some of the things that we have there right now, the creation, so that they can take note and don't depend on others to give them a job. Because I do not like to see people just sit down and say they do not have work to do, and there are lots of things that we can do.
The benefit of promoting art in the community, however, extends far beyond the individual. Art is deeply embedded in a country's culture and way of life.
Art is life. Art has always been life. It's a way. It's how our people breathe. You know, without art, we don't have an inner soul. You know, it is community. You know, it is how persons communicate. Whether it is in literature, whether it is in fine arts, whether it is on stage, art is the community. And so we want to develop that, and we want our society to be to reflect a people that is rich in the arts.
By hosting more events like the Miku Community Festival in years to come, St. Lucia can continue to allow its art scene to thrive and inspire not only self-expression, but also cultural appreciation and preservation. For Core Values, I'm Hannah Jang.
Well, the DBS News World continues in just a moment. Their relative tonight. He is 79-year-old Joseph Cadet from Bellevue in Canaries. He was last seen on April 13th when he left to go to Anstory. Relatives say Cadet has gone missing in the past, but never for this long. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact his sister Elizabeth Jules at 459-4835. Once again, that number is 459-4835, or the nearest police station. The challenges facing the local manufacturing sector and some of the changes necessary to ensure its continued growth and prosperity dominated the conversation as the St. Lucia Manufacturers Association held its annual general meeting. Sheffield Gillard has the details.
A number of topics were up for discussion, such as the changes in the global environment, the manner in which business is conducted today, as well as issues faced in the export market. The SMA plans to work with the government in addressing competitiveness at the regional and international levels. The SMA president says the major issue affecting the association members is the cost of electricity.
The major challenges that we face as manufacturers is the high cost of electricity and also challenges in terms of the workforce. But the major issue would be the high energy cost. That is a major issue affecting all manufacturers. So it's a significant component in the final cost to the consumer.
Considering the financial constraints the government is facing, Mr. Doublé says he is quite happy that the $500,000 subvention has not been cut. Nonetheless, he says, the association will welcome added incentives.
What this government has done is they have continued the support of manufacturers by proposing some draft legislation which will classify manufacturers in the same bracket as a free zone. So the tax rate will be significantly less. And in addition to that, they are making a number of proposals in terms of if a certain criteria is fulfilled, that it can result in further tax concessions. For instance, reinvestment in new equipment, technology, recycling, human resource training and development, just to name a few. So I think these are very bold initiatives that the government has taken and will assist us in becoming more competitive and being able to compete locally and on the global scale.
The meeting was held at the Bay Gardens Beach Resort and Spa. For the DBS News World, I am Sheffield Gillard.
In other news, St. Lucy's Home received a mattress donation today. Compliments of Furniture Superstore, Courts Unicom St. Lucia, and Lensil All Night Limited out of Trinidad and Tobago. Alex Busque was there.
Courts St. Lucia Limited continues to bring value to the communities throughout the island through a series of corporate social responsibility ventures undertaken by the company. The St. Lucy's Home was the recipient of a brand new mattress, compliments of Lindsay and the company's all-night collection.
It's my greatest honor to be here today to do a donation on behalf of our company. We've established our corporate social responsibilities this year, and part of it is to actually give back to the communities that we're established in. So it's our great honor to start with one simple donation of the all-night premier divan, which is behind us, to the St. Lucy's Home, which has been in operation for over 33 years. So we hope that this small donation can continue the great work that is carried on right here, and we look forward to future donations and to continuing to support this community and the St. Lucian society.
The St. Lucy's Home and Courts St. Lucia have had a long-standing relationship.
We've had a long-lasting relationship. We've done our part as it relates to making sure the environment is one where the clients of the center, partners, that they feel welcome, that the environment is one where it calls for continued progress and development for the center.
Administrator of the home, Mr. Sylvester Phillip, welcomed the gesture while expressing the hope that others might follow suit. He stressed that the home was largely dependent on such donations to keep its doors open.
Coach Unicoma and British Jongi have been very good friends of St. Lucy's Home. They have done quite a lot to make our home, our residents, comfortable. In fact, they gave us a facelift. Last year, they assisted the home in a repainting exercise, which we appreciated very much. And in fact, at Christmas time, they gave a donation. In fact, they look for every opportunity to give us something, and that we appreciate. Today, we are happy that Ruth is here from Trinidad. Her product all night, producing all night mattresses, and she has donated a wonderful mattress, to the St. Lucy's Home. And of course, I know our residents are going to be comfortable all night, all of the nights, really. And we appreciate it very much.
Representatives of both companies toured the facility to get a better appreciation of the work it does and its challenges. For the DBS News World, I am Alex Bousquet.
Is calorie burning while taking an afternoon snooze. David Lloyd Club said its location in the Sidcup neighborhood of London is testing out nap-size classes, which involve about 15 minutes of relaxation-oriented exercises paired with 45 minutes of napping in a room filled with beds. The club said the studio temperature is being dropped during the classes to promote calorie burning during sleep. The club cited data indicating 86% of British parents suffer from fatigue and 26% regularly get less than 5 hours of sleep each night. Time now for the usual reminder. The Police Welfare Association to launch a campaign to get suspended officers back on active duty. NEMO continues to shift its focus away from meteorological to geological hazards. An opposition senator speaks out on last weekend's car crash that claimed 2 teenage lives. And a St. Lucia-based business makes an historic first shipment to Cuba. And that's a broadcast.